Oh, you're new here. Welcome. My name is Monty. I'm a former alt-right Christian nationalist raised by Republican politicians. I attended Christian school my entire life, studied theology and U.S. history my entire life, graduated from Liberty University, and studied theology in Israel. You really did not like my response video because it clashes with your beliefs, not because you can biblically disprove anything I said. So first of all, I never claimed that Christians claim to be Christ, but that's a convenient out for you because you don't want to address that Christians do not in fact act like Christ, nor do they follow the commands that he laid out. But let's break your comment down piece by piece. Let's start with calling out sin. We're going to go to John 8, verse 7. This is when the adulterous woman is brought to Jesus, and he says, if any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to cast the first stone. And when they all leave, Jesus says, neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin. See, Jesus was able to call out sin without disenfranchising someone, trying to make her less than, taking her rights away, or issuing capital punishment, which was actually the law. He broke the law by doing this. And you act like defending the unborn while you won't defend the people who are here and already alive is somehow a biblical tenet, which it isn't addressed in the Bible, except for we can go to Exodus 21, verse 22, which says, if men are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she miscarries, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life. Exodus itself defines the difference between the life of a fetus and the life of the mother. The fetus is given property value while the woman's life is capital punishment as human life and the capital punishment law commands. See, what you're actually basing your belief on, this idea that life begins at conception, is an Epicurean and Pythagorean belief that originated in Greece from philosophers who predated and did not believe in Jesus at all. And when you say biblical marriage, I'm curious, do you mean like when Abraham was married to Sarah and he assaulted Hagar and had a son with her? Or do you mean how David and Solomon had multiple wives and concubines and David abducted Bathsheba and raped her and then murdered her husband? Or Deuteronomy 20's allowance of raping and then marrying prisoners of war? Is that what you mean? Are you talking about probably Matthew 19, where Jesus is asked a question about a man and woman in marriage and he answers about a man and woman in marriage? But when he gives the prerogative in 19 verse 10 that marriage can only be divorced in unfaithfulness, the disciples are so surprised by this, they say it is better not to marry. But then you skip verse 12 where it says, for some are eunuchs and they were born that way, others were made that way by men, and others have renounced marriage because of the kingdom of heaven. Eunuchs were the closest that we have to the LGBTQ and trans community, and Jesus says here that theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And when you're talking about opposing corruption, I'm sure that's why the church is dead silent in the clear corruption of hiding the Epstein files, right? Then you talk about love is not silence in the face of evil, which is why I'm curious that the church isn't speaking up about the violation of human rights of other Christians simply because those Christians happen to be brown and they're immigrants. And then you attack the authority of God in my life when I can specify my relationship with Christ and what God means to me and the teachings of Christ mean to me. Someone who can quote as much scripture as I am and reads the Bible as much as I do has a very special part of it in my life, but you have to attack me because you can't attack my biblical argument. Now, you also condemn quoting verses because you can't, because you have no biblical argument with which to refute what it is I'm saying. I also never said that Jesus had any intentions of overthrowing Rome, but religion itself is political because human rights are political. And if it's not political, then why are Christian nationalists trying to run the country instead of staying the fuck out of it? Then you compare me to a Pharisee again, because you're using a common Christian nationalist tool. Anytime a argument doesn't say what you want it to say, and because you have not read the scripture yourself, you're only regurgitating what you've been told, you have to parrot it and then disenfranchise me because you can't support a biblical argument. But let's go to Matthew 23, verses 23 through 24. And it says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites, you give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. Who does that sound like to you? Because there's only one group of people in the country that are completely fine with just negating due process and negating human rights, and it's not the people in my camp. So when you have a biblical argument to come back to me with, I will be right here. I will be right here. And when you want to call yourself a Christian who actually follows the teachings of Christ, including love your neighbor, do so for the least of these, love your neighbor, give to those who ask of you, and do not ask for anything in return. When you follow the parable of the Samaritan who crossed racial and religious lines to help someone because they need it, when you help people who are living here on earth instead of negating that responsibility so that you can claim you defend the unborn, I will be right here.